Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Roll call, Mrs. Cropper.
Ms. Sanborn?
Present.
Mr. Lewis?
Present.
Mrs. Brinkman? Present. Mr. Waldman?
Present.
Motion carried. Go ahead. Dr. Klein.
Good evening to all of the folks in attendance. As you can see on the agenda, the second point of business is the announcement of the new West Claremont board member. We'd like to welcome Judge Shriver to tonight's meeting. I know that he's been working diligently for several months now, trying to make a great decision for our district. And I think without question, everybody's looking forward to hearing from you tonight. So I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam President, distinguished members of the board, Dr. Klein and Ms. Cropper, and members of our community. Thank you for your attendance this evening. I hope you're not planning on getting out of here much before midnight, because I'm actually planning to take a little bit of time to explain what I've done. I could very easily have placed an entry of record appointing the next school board member, but I felt, in view of the interest that had been expressed by the various individuals who applied for the position, as well as the many members of the community who have contacted me and members of my family, that I thought my decision should actually be one made on the record in this room before all of you. First, I must say that I, as well as the board members, are probably very happy that this decision is going to be made and it's over with. I could go nowhere, whether it was the grocery store, church, or for a walk, without someone stopping me and suggesting what they thought needed to be done in the school district and who the person was for that position. I found it very interesting when I started getting telephone calls from my family members expressing what they had heard at various social functions that they had attended. So obvious to me at that point was that everyone had a keen interest and that I needed to spend a lot of time thinking about what I was going to do and then explain it to all of you. Some of you are going to be happy, some of you are not going to be happy, but I gave it the best, and I hope that when you hear the person that I've decided to appoint, that you will give that person all of your support so that the West Claremont Local School District can be one that everyone is proud of. First, I'm going to talk about process. When the board was unable to reach a decision for the position, they sent a resolution to me indicating that they were unable to make that decision and that I should make it. I looked at the fact that there were 10 applicants and that the position had initially been posted for only 2.5 days on the board's website. I decided that another opportunity should be given to other individuals in the West Claremont Local School District to apply for the position. Initially, I placed it on the probate court website and contemporaneously sent notices to the Claremont Sun, the Community Journal, and the Cincinnati Enquirer, notifying them of the placement. I also had some contact with 2 of our local papers so that they would pay some attention to the email that I sent them. The initial deadline for applying was July the 16th, I believe, and I received 3 additional applications. I was somewhat concerned that perhaps maybe individuals had not seen the notice that was in the Community Journal, because I believe it was actually mentioned as a part of an article near the end. So I asked the Journal to, I suggested to the Journal that they run a separate article announcing that I was extending the application deadline to July 31st. They agreed, and I received 2 additional applicants. So I had a total of 15 people to essentially talk to, get their thoughts, so that I could make a decision that was intelligent and one that I felt was in the best interest of the school district. Initially, I looked at Jim Rudy and Jeff Coles. Both candidates received numerous letters of support that were sent to me. Somehow, my email address got out. And there was a constant amount of emails that were received. Both of these individuals are fine gentlemen, and it is obvious from the letters of support that I received that they are held in high esteem in our community. I took a look at the statute regarding the naming of an individual to a school board when the school board is unable to agree. I thought perhaps maybe Jim Rudy was the candidate since he was the next vote getter. But when I looked at the statute, it didn't say that. And when I thought about the legislative intent, it was clear to me that the legislature decided that a school board, if they were able to do so, could pick the best candidate that they thought should fill the position. That would also hold true for the judge in the event that the school board wasn't able to fill the position. Therefore, I did not feel an automatic obligation to fill the seat with Jim Rudy. I also, at that point in time, decided that I would really like to meet the individuals that had applied for the position. So I set up interviews. And those interviews were, I believe, as short perhaps maybe as 20 minutes, and others went as long as 2 hours or nearly 2 hours. Spent a lot of time talking to a lot of people, good people. And the shame of it is that I couldn't roll all 15 people into one person and appoint that person to this board because, frankly, you would have one super duper board member with many, many talents and skills and wisdom. So I thought then perhaps I would try to analyze the situation in terms of what was being brought to me in the form of issues by the various applicants, as well as take a look at what the vote really stood for in November of 2013. The issues that were identified by the candidates, frankly, were almost common to all of them. I thought for a minute there, perhaps maybe they were all calling one another and rehearsing what they were going to say, because it was kind of interesting. I kept asking the same questions to all of the various applicants, and for the most part, they were giving me pretty much the same answer. So you're thinking, well, what questions did the judge ask? Some fairly simple questions. What are the short-term needs of the school district? What are the long-term needs, and what recommendations do you have for addressing those needs? The issues that were identified in the interviews are as follows. A need to restore busing. Eliminate or reduce the pay-to-play athletic fees. Loss of pupils is a big issue, nearly 1,000 to date. In fact, I attended a school summit on Friday that the Claremont County Juvenile Court hosted, was speaking with one school district personnel who guesstimated that they had picked up a significant number of pupils from the West Claremont Local School District. Restoration of art, music, and gym. Retention of teachers. A look at the salaries. There were some individuals who felt that the starting salary of our teachers was too low, and therefore we were unable to attract the talent that was needed in order to hire and keep well-educated, informed teachers. Full utilization of buildings or repurpose their use, perhaps even closing one. It's no secret in this school district that our schools are not at capacity. The issues that came around that particular topic suggested perhaps maybe a need to close one or two. Perhaps it was time to combine and build a new school. Perhaps it was even time to think about combining the high schools. Less administrators and secretaries. Professional development for teachers. And what is interesting is some of the comments about the board. And these are not my personal comments. These are comments that I received, but I'm going to share them because it played into my decision on who should be the next board member. Lack of leadership and direction by the board. Funding, questions on true financial need. Polarized board. And set priorities and develop long-range plans. So I looked at these comments, these issues that were being presented to me, and I thought about the vote from November of 2013, and it was obvious to me at that point that what we were dealing with is a situation where there was a lack of trust and respect for the board. It was pretty apparent that the vote that came was a vote for change. And the question then becomes, how do you best effectuate that change with what you have in the school district? After all, I believe about 72% of the school's budget goes for personnel. It does not leave a lot of funds to do other things. So, in looking at the last couple of meetings that I attended, and in reviewing the article that Mr. West had sent to the Community Journal, it became apparent to me that there's a lack of communication between the board and the community. And there's a need for that communication to be established and to be carried to go forward on an ongoing basis so that trust and dignity can be placed back in the board and so that the school district can move forward. So, having attended the meetings, having looked at everything, it was apparent that we've got a 2-to-2 split among a number of issues. So I felt that there was a need to appoint someone who could be a consensus builder, someone who could talk to all 4 board members, who had prior experience in terms of working with people to build consensus or at least attempt to discuss the issues of concern and attempt to come to a consensus of 5-0 or 4-1 and not 3-2. I thought it was also important that this person that I would appoint be able to have leadership skills that would help the board move forward to set priorities and to deal with these issues that everyone had addressed in the interviews. So, when you look at the fact that there is a need for transparency, that there's a need to hold the board and the administration accountable for the operation of the district, I felt that there was a need for fresh eyes to take a look at this operation. And for that to occur, that meant that I needed someone who had experience. I would like to say I found that person, but I think that person found me. The person that I've decided to appoint to this position has served over 15 years as a member of a school board in another district outside the state of Ohio. I don't think any of you know this person. This person operated in a school system where the school system was accountable to the people. It truly was a government for the people, by the people. The school district was unable to operate with a budget until the school board went to the people. They went to what we would call town meetings, presented the budget, and then the community voted on the budget. No schools were built unless the populace voted on the construction of the schools. Nothing major really happened in this other state with respect to schools unless the populace was in agreement. So that told me that when I was looking at this person, that this person really had some good communication skills and worked quite a bit to ensure that the school district would be successful. I'm going to share just a little bit about this person. Chaired the Finance Committee, which had the responsibility of developing the annual budget and made annual budget presentations in various town meetings, which resulted in adoption of the budgets. Chaired the Property and Transportation Committee, worked with the outsourcing of busing contract and provided construction project oversight, co-chaired the district re-engineering project, was responsible for securing state money to establish inter-school district purchasing collaborative for busing, fuel, and textbooks. His work resulted in the initial savings of $70,000 on the busing contract, $150,000 in textbook purchases, and $250,000 in fuel oil purchases. Chaired a $16.3 million middle school construction project. Chaired the Policy Review Committee that reviewed and revised the district policy manual, which was then put online for instantaneous access by school staff and the public. Was vice chair of a $1.4 million high school renovation project. Developed a $5.5 million Phase 2 school addition concept that included drawings and energy conservation enhancements. Implemented a school improvement plan process, annually reviewed school improvement plans, developed new school board member training, which included the open meeting or sunshine law, negotiated contracts with teachers, paraprofessionals, janitorial, and principal bargaining units. He tells me, and I would agree, that he worked with members of the community. There were subcommittees of the board, and he worked extensively with community members in doing the work to ensure that input was received from everyone. He volunteered over 15 hours a week beyond the school board meetings in performing all this work and attending the community and town meetings. He has a master's in business administration as well as a bachelor's of science degree in chemistry. He holds 5 patents. He is extremely intelligent. He is a recent member of our community, moving here in November of 2012. I believe that he will bring to this board countless energy, countless ideas, and will help to engineer this school district with the assistance of board members into one that is well respected, not only in the community, but throughout the state of Ohio. Now, Ms. Sanborn, when you ran for election,
Yes.
you proposed bringing together the school board, teachers, business leaders, parents, and the community to find financial solutions other than additional taxes. I am going to hold you to that pledge that you made to the voters at that point in time when you ran. And I'm going to ask that you work with this individual and that you put together subcommittees of the board, or what we would call community groups, in order to address the issues that are present before the board. There is a distrust of financial information. There's a distrust of the board, a distrust of administration. And I have found in my years of service as a judge to this county that the only way to remove that distrust is to involve the populace, to provide them an opportunity to understand. And when you have a gentleman that I'm giving you today that's had over 15 years of experience in working with community groups and in helping to build consensus, I would urge you to use his gifts, his talents, and his skills in order to not only help you make your decisions, but to help bring consensus among all of you. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I will introduce to you John Banches. John, would you step forward, please? John, what would you like to share with the group tonight?
After that, the introduction and that long list of things to do, maybe I better quit now. That said, all the things that Judge Shriver has said that have been accomplished in my year with the school committee was not my doing. It was many, many folks with many ideas, many hours of volunteer efforts to make the district better. We have before us a board that currently is divided. I guess I'm the swing vote. Now with 5 board members, there will no longer be tie votes. Look to build consensus, look to get us back to moving this district forward. Thank you, Judge Shriver, for your in-depth interview. Most of the interviews, there were 3 as I recall, were between an hour, hour and a half, even 2 hours. So I was on the long end of most of those interviews. Look forward to working with the board members, and the paperwork will follow. So I'll be seated next meeting, as I understand it.
Yeah, next Monday.
Okay,
Next Monday, we'll have the paperwork completed. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Klein, Ms. Cropper, and audience, I have completed my duty, and I'm going to take my leave. Enjoy the meeting. You're welcome. Thank you. You're welcome. I've given Elena the 5 resumes that I see so that you know where the other are. You've got a copy of the judgment entry that went record today, and that I'll take care of working with John to get all the paperwork. So you can sit next to me. Thanks, John. Take care.
You might want to just take just a second to share that with them. Just as we were wrapping up, and certainly we appreciate Judge Shriver's hard work on this endeavor, I did want to let folks know that with anything, as you know, there's paperwork to be done. That paperwork has been given to us by the judge, and that'll be filed with the Board of Elections probably as early as tomorrow. All the paperwork and everything will be taken care of, so that come next Monday we can swear in our newest board member. So on behalf of the entire school community, we want to welcome him to West Claremont in the West Claremont School District. So we'll be on that as quickly as we can. It'll be the first order of business when we get back together a week from now. Okay?
Thank you. Public comment, speaking to the board meeting. Do we have any, Mrs. Cropper?
I have no cards.
Okay, thank you. Approval of minutes, Mrs. Cropper?
On the treasurer's agenda this evening, we have the minutes from the last regular meeting on July 30th. I respectfully request that you approve those minutes of the regular meeting as presented.
You've heard the recommendation from Mrs. Cropper. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion? Roll call, Mrs. Cropper?
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Waldman?
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn?
Yes. Motion carried. Next order of business, treasurer's comments.
Short treasurer's agenda this evening, and welcome to our newest board member. I look forward to working with him.
Thank you. Superintendent's business, Dr. Klein.
Well, that was short.
Unusual for me.
You said it was going to be, and you held to your
Told ya.
promise, didn't you? As the board knows and the community knows, we've been focused this last year on school safety. We've, thanks to the help of our staff and our particular operations staff, we've made a lot of physical improvements in all of our buildings, bringing them up to speed with the issues that we face now. Unfortunately, in West Claremont, we have a lot of buildings that were built at a time where we're not facing the kinds of things that we face today as far as threats to our young people. So our group has been working, the safety committee at the district level has been working very diligently on training that we will provide to our staff next week on Tuesday when we have our district meeting prior to our students showing up. ALICE training is a nationally recognized program. It is endorsed by over 700 law enforcement agencies, the FBI, on a more local basis by the Attorney General of the state of Ohio. It is part of our overall comprehensive safety plan and trying to do whatever we can to make sure that our students stay safe, heaven forbid, if anything drastic were to take place. So Mr. Dyer has led this team over the course of the summer. We've sent individuals from the team out to get extensive training. I know that Mr. Waldman has experienced some of the same training and has been a part of that in his school district. What I'd like for the committee to do tonight, they're going to give you a brief presentation about what ALICE is and how it's changed, or our approach to how we deal with crisis situations have changed over the years. If you remember, and this will date some of us, but I remember in elementary school having bomb drills where we'd hide under our desk. Needless to say, that probably wasn't going to work then, and that same kind of strategy probably isn't the best move to make now. So we'll turn it over to Mr. Dyer and his committee. You'll see that we have some officers here from both Union Township and the Claremont County Sheriff's Department who have been actively involved in the training, as they will be next Tuesday with our staff. So with that being said, Mr. Dyer, I hope I didn't take anything that you were planning to say, but the floor is yours.
No, you're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll take Mrs. Cropper's time that she cut short.
Oh.
No, we'll try to keep it brief. This evening, thank you for giving us the opportunity to come in and update the Board of Education on some of the activities that are ongoing with security and safety in our schools. And we do have an ALICE presentation this evening. Before we get into that, I did want to tell you in conjunction with that, we're also updating our emergency operation plan for the district. We are following the model of the Ohio Attorney General, and that was put together with 38 stakeholders and numerous safety professionals across the state. We're adopting that model for West Claremont's model. We're starting to work on that now. We've asked each individual principal to take it back to their school and involve people, other folks in that. Some of the people we're going to involve in the modifying that and customizing it for our school, or we'll have school officials, school safety teams, local law enforcement, the local fire officials. We'll have parent representation, teacher representation, non-teaching employee representation, as well as others. They will all be involved in the customization of our safety plans. And as part of the safety plans, one of the things they've adopted in it are the ALICE concept. They don't necessarily address ALICE, but the concepts of ALICE are addressed in there. So that leads me into our ALICE presentation. What we have for you that is the district safety team. You can see those members there. They're all great individuals. They all have been trained as ALICE instructors. They're all certified. So we've got a lot of experience here, a lot of background, and these people are the best to present it. I'm not going to try to do that. I don't want to take anything from them. So I'm going to turn it over to them and let them give you a condensed version of Alice this evening. We typically go an hour for the informational section, but we didn't want to stretch it out to an hour this evening, but we wanted to leave time for questions. So we're going to give you a kind of a condensed version. With that, I'm going to turn it over to, I think, Officer Seekford up first.
Thanks, Mr. Starr. I'm Officer Seekford with Union Township. Alice is a set of proactive strategies that increase the chance of survival during an active shooter event. Alice is not a way to deal with an active shooter itself. Okay, that's a whole nother subject, the law enforcement issue. Alice is a way for our staff and our students to respond to an active shooter, and the ideal behind Alice is to as many people to survive an active shooting. God forbid we have one, but as many people as can survive an active shooter incident as possible, and that's what these strategies are involved. I went through the training myself. I was very impressed with Alice. A common misconception is lockdown does not mean locked in. Okay, you've always have the right to escape danger and evacuate if the opportunity exists. Since Columbine, probably we've gotten into this thing where we've locked down the schools, and it's not a thing we're going to do away with. It is a good thing. But the problem is when we lock down a building with an active shooter in the building, are we putting people in danger that could escape, that could do other things to react to an active shooter? And that's what we're doing. We're training the staff and the students, hopefully, to respond to these things and think for themselves and survive an active shooter. And that's what ALICE is about. ALICE is an acronym for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. And as the team goes along here, they're going to explain each one of those to you.
Hi, I'm Tanya Schmidt. I'm the principal of Withamsville Elementary School, and I have A in Alice. If there's an active shooter, it's very important that you get information out. If you're going to make an informed decision, of course, you have to know as much as you can know. And one of the things that I learned in the training, I ordinarily think of myself as a person that's going to send out that information. What I learned is we need shared responsibility if we're truly going to have real-time information. Information should flow all directions, so I will do my best to get information out, and from there, employees, even students, letting each other know what is going on as far as the active shooter is. And I won't steal the thunder of all the rest of the members here, try not to go too deep into that, but so provide as much intel as possible to as many people as possible. So we have to think about how we're going to get the word out any way you can. Something we tried at WT is a system where one person in the safety committee can send a text and we all get that text. And we practiced using that when we do our fire drills, so it lets us know that everyone is in place, and it's also a way for us to check that out and see if it works. It works, and it works very well. We don't have to holler to the back of the building anymore. We use our phones for that. So you can use your PA. There are systems that will allow you to flash a message across a smart board, which is certainly enticing to me as we have smart boards in our classroom. Twitter, Facebook, I know most of us have accounts that we can use to communicate. And then the last thing is just sensory inputs. What's going on around you, paying attention to what's going on around you and responding to that and sharing that information out with others. So anything you can think of, any way you can get that information out so we can make informed decisions, that's what the A in Alice is all about.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Kevin Thacker, the principal at Clough Pike. As Officer Seekbert mentioned before, lockdown doesn't mean locked in anymore. And through the training, that's a big change for us, because in the past, when we would go into a lockdown situation in case of an active shooter, we would lock down, hide in corner, try to get around desk, and then wait and hope that someone comes to save you. But with Alice, that changes, because now lockdown still takes place, but lockdown takes place to secure the safety of the students so that we can then gather information about what might need to take place. Also, we start looking at, and you'll find that the acronyms of Alice, they work together. And information is a critical piece when you start looking at being in a lockdown. And I can tell you through the training, one key aspect to being in a lockdown situation is that a teacher number one, is empowered to make decisions about what they need to do to save the lives of themselves and their children in that classroom. And you start looking at the classroom itself, and how would you barricade a door? If you look at how the doors open into our classrooms, if they were to happen to get through the locked door, how could we barricade a room to slow things up? And if they were in that situation, how would we then get kids out? Whatever we would have to do to keep kids safe. So the nice thing about Alice is the fact that lockdown is just an initial step to then gain information to determine, what do I do next? What do I do next to save the lives of these kids? And it sort of goes right into what Mr. Hudson.
Good evening, I'm Ross Hudson. I'm the assistant principal at Amelia Middle School. As you've heard through the last two, information is a great source to the whole ALICE system. And it really starts with us going back and starting where Mr. Dyer started. We need to revamp everything, and we need to inform everybody and empower all our teachers with all the information. There's many great things that we put in buildings in the last year to help inform our staffs with smart boards, texting, and all this good stuff, and that we need to continue to empower our teachers and give more information to them as soon as possible. We want real-time information, so we want to have many different ways, and our buildings are so different by themselves. Each building has to have a different plan. We can't just make a vanilla statement. It has to be individual for each building. And information is a great way. As Ms. Smith already said, she already has tried her text system, and it works. Each building is going to be very different for their communication and their real-time information. And that's something that we have to continue to give to the board, to our teachers, and to our community.
Good evening. I'm Bob Walker. I'm the Glenesti High School principal. We can spell. We did skip over the C intentionally here. Deputy Patton's going to speak to the counter and Alice. We went to evacuate in this point. Evacuation, it really speaks to the principles of Alice about empowering people to make decisions that will keep them alive. These occurrences, as horrible as they are, and I'm sure for those individuals that have survived them, they seem to take forever. They are very limited in their time frame. We're talking about minutes. The first responders really are the teachers and the students that are there. They've got to be able to feel that they can make decisions based on the information they're receiving so they can survive. Only about 2% of these events have more than one intruder involved. You can't come up with a patent plan that someone else out there with evil intentions can't dissect and break through. And that's the beauty of Alice, is that it's not really a patent plan. It gives you the power to make a decision to stay alive. If he's inside and the information that you have would enable you to escape, we want you to escape. There are some basic things, and depending upon the campuses, a high school campus, kids might escape and think, I'll get in my car. We have to teach them, and we have to teach parents. We don't want vehicles jamming up the roadways and preventing our police and EMS, fire, and so forth from being able to make it to our campus. Reunification points, as we mentioned, I think the next slide has a picture of a campus.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. And so, all of our campuses are different. Their surroundings are different. The locations around them are different. Each one of the safety teams in the schools with their principal are going to have to go through and as we go through and update our safety plans, look at where would I want people to go to be reunified? Do I need to have buses then pick them up? There's a lot of things to play that are going to be unique for each individual building. But the key concepts, again, are empowering those people to make those decisions, involving them, engaging them, and teaching them the basics of really what should, in some senses, be common sense. What is my instinct telling me that I need to do in order to survive this situation? And Deputy Patton.
Good evening. I'm Deputy Patton. I work for the Sheriff's Office. I'm the Amelia Campus Resource Officer. The part that I have is counter. When we talk about the counter part, we did that last because that does typically give some concern to the public as well as the school board, because what we're basically asking is that if you have used every other means to do what needs to be done, then you would have to try to do some sort of taking countermeasures. When you talk about this, you can survive contact with an armed intruder. And again, we've condensed this, so there should be more to that. When it says police missed 80% of their shoots, there's another slide to that. But when we were talking about this, the bad guy is not usually a highly skilled shooter. Basically, he's coming into these rooms or he's coming into these situations, and he's just pointing and shooting. Basically, he's just causing as much damage as in a short amount of time. So when we talk about counter, some things that you can do is engage in acts that would require a very high skill level. So you would do some sort of a noise, make some sort of movement, something that would distract him or throw him off of what he is trying to do. So just any type of distraction would solve this particular part of it. Some of this, the next one. Thank you. That's okay. Some of the survival tactics, skills beyond lockdowns that should be provided. You can look at things such as barricade, cover, and concealment. So again, when we talk about lockdown and we're talking about barricades, teachers and staff members should start looking at their rooms, seeing what kind of furniture, what kind of things that they can move around the room that would help secure the room and barricade. When we talk about evade or escape, again, try to get out of the building if you can. If you have an active shooter or an active situation in the cafeteria in the furthest part of our building, if they can escape, they need to do so. When you talk about swarm, that's actually a picture of that. If you have an active shooter and you have someone standing in front of you, me personally, and obviously it would be my training, but I'm not going to just stand there. If he's going to shoot me, we're going to go down with a fight. And so that's what they're doing. You've got someone you can't really see there, but you've got someone going after his legs. You've got some people going for the top part of him. So you're basically swarming him, trying to get him under control. Again, we've condensed this a little bit, but when we talk about removing and securing the weapons, we'll actually go into more in depth than that. That's a whole other thing. You want to be cautious on that. And then obviously contact with law enforcement. Mr. Walker talked about time. When we talk about an active shooter, the average active shooter events last about 4 to 8 minutes. Statistics show 4 to 8 minutes the individual has come in and has created the catastrophe that they're trying. What is the average time for law enforcement to arrive? Virginia Tech had one of the fastest response times to date. They had two for an active shooter. They had within 3 minutes, they had two fully armed officers. They arrived. They were about 800 yards away when the shooting started. What was one of the worst active shooters in American hit based on body count? Virginia Tech. In an active shooter scenario, every second counts. Those officers, when they came to the door, Cho was on the other side of it. He had actually barricaded the door himself. He had used some chains. They couldn't get in. It took them a couple extra seconds to get in, but that was one of the highest things. When we do these things, guys, no disrespect to law enforcement, we're behind the game on this. The staff members are the ones that are going to be there. While we're going to be there, especially in our community, we're a rural community, so we're going to be pulling from everywhere. At my school, I would be having anybody from Pierce Township, Amelia, Union Township, so we're going to all be coming together. So it's really important that the staff members are aware and understand what this is. So again, just some things here that they point out here. This is the Virginia Tech. In room 210, there was no classrooms. In room 206, there was 14 present. There was 10 killed, 2 wounded. In room 204, there was 19 presents. They killed 2, wounded 3. One of the ones in 204 that was killed was actually the professor. The professor was in the midst of trying to barricade the door with their body. Cho shot through the door and killed the professor. 200, there was no classroom. When you go to 211, there was 19 present. There was 12 killed, 6 wounded. On 207, there was 13 present, killed 5, wounded 6. He actually went back to that room. He started in that room, started the shooting. He actually left. That's when they barricaded the door. So the first initial part of it is when he did all of the killing. But when they left, they actually got up and barricaded the door. So they took some corrective measures. The last room, 205, there was 12 presents. Nobody was killed. Nobody was wounded. That particular professor was actually an intern, and he heard the shooting down the hallways, and he immediately told his kids to get up, barricade the door. Cho came to that room and was not able to gain entry into that room. There was nobody killed, nobody wounded. When you talk about Alice, When faced with danger, you must do something. Theodore Roosevelt said, in a moment of decision, the best thing that you can do is the right thing. The next best thing that you can do is the wrong thing. The worst thing that you can do is nothing.
Okay, thank you, team. That is a condensed version. That is really fast. We cut out a lot of the slides, but we wanted to condense it down so we didn't take all evening here and we had time for questions, etc. The next steps before I get into questions is I want to talk a little bit about our ALICE training on August the 19th. We have an all-district ALICE training set up for all staff members. That's teaching and non-teaching, means all staff members, district office included. At the Glen Estee site, we have convocation that morning, and we'll start right after convocation. It will run from 8 o'clock till 11:30, and we intend to end about 11:30. All of our buildings will be closed. That's important for the community to know. We're going to close all of our school buildings, as well as the district office will be closed for that time for training. The Glen Estee campus will be closed also. We will barricade the campus once it starts because we don't want any misconceptions or people misconstruing what we may be doing. We don't want, the SWAT teams called on us or any of that kind of thing, because we are practicing that. We don't want people to be confused, and that's part of why we wanted to talk this evening, because we want to get the message out that we are doing training. The training staff is right here. We are doing the training, our ALICE training folks, all these people are ALICE trained, and we're doing it in conjunction with Union Township and the Claremont County Sheriff Department. Both of those departments are going to help us, and they've been helping us all along the way. They're going to provide staff and support and actively participate in the training. We've also invited the Amelia Village and Pierce Township, as also having jurisdiction in our community, to come as observers. And so the Amelia Village, I have talked to them. They've confirmed. I have not heard back from Pierce Township, but I'm sure they will. We just haven't connected yet. Been leaving voicemails. But we expect that to be a big day. This is going to be more of scenario interactive based. We actually will be training on lockdowns and enhanced lockdowns and going over options as much as time will allow. So we expect it to be a big day. We expect over 600 folks to be training that day. So it's going to be a very fast-paced, fast-moving training session, but we've got the right people to do training, and we've got the right people supporting us. So with that, I will open it up to any questions you may have. The team is available to answer any questions. I'll try to answer those if you have any. And with that, I'll open it up if there's any questions.
This is not something we look forward to. I think one of the things we should do as a district is looking at arming concealed carry with the teachers. We know that Columbine was the first one that made the news. It was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I guess now. And they had a resource officer in the building, and they knew who was armed, and then when the armed person left, they started their rampage. There's both Buckeye Farms and there's a group in Northern Kentucky that can provide that with teachers that are willing and desirous of doing that no one would know but the superintendent and the other concealed carry members who would have it. And we stop inviting these nut jobs into our schools with a sign that say, come in, it's a free shooting gallery, because most of these folks are cowards. And I think once they get past that, this training is great, but I think we can be more proactive if we take that approach to start with. And it's not something we can do overnight, because there's special training required to train these people that would willingly do that. But we've got 2 resource officers, and they can't possibly be every place that they need to be on one campus.
That is correct. I agree with your comment. The resource officers can't be everywhere. Neither can administration or law enforcement. And that's what the beauty of this training is about, is empowering staff. So that I'm a teacher. Typically, the schools have been, we're big into education. That's what we're about. We educate people. We have routines. We have processes and procedures we need to follow. And so we follow those. We follow them to the law. And if you saw some of those shootings, you go back and looking at the statistics, people stayed locked down. They did exactly what they were taught to do. They did it well. They ended up dead, a lot of them, unfortunately. So in the Alice training, that's the beauty of that. It gives us, we're looking at lockdown as the first option, and then we're looking at enhanced lockdown. What do we do after we lock down, if we're able to lock down? And in some cases, you may not get locked down. You may just be fleeing ahead of time. But we want to empower our people so they're not sitting there waiting for a decision to be made or an announcement to come over the intercom that we need to do this or we need to do that. It's do what you have to do and do it based upon the training you've been given. Hopefully you'll make good decisions, and at least you're making a decision. And lockdown in many cases is going to be the right thing to do. Lockdown, do as we've always done, but in many cases it may not be. And we just don't know. Nobody really knows. So our training will be options. It's creating a toolbox of things you can use in an active shooter situation to save lives.
Well, it's good that you're given the option to empowerment, rather, to do what they feel the situation needs. I mean, you can't have a set plan, this is what we're going to follow. I mean, the military training I had was the battle plan is only good till the battle starts.
Absolutely.
And then it's, you know, because it's so dynamic on a battlefield, you never know what's going to happen. You have to be able to react and have to be empowered to react. And you're right, the teachers and the students are the first responders. Yes. And we can't wait on the policemen to get there.
And we don't even know what the situation is. I mean, we're training for something that may or may not ever happen, and we don't know what that may or may not be. It could be anything. And we don't know that, you know, that it changes all the time. All we can go on is statistics, things that have happened in the past, try to prepare for the future, and prepare our people to be as well trained as they can be. This is a good start. This is not by far the end of it. We'll have the district training. We don't expect people to go out of there and now we're all trained and we're professionals at this. There's going to be many training opportunities. Some are going to be dictated by law, but we're going to take the training after the 19th, and then they'll use it in conjunction out at the schools when they're doing their safety plans and as they're doing their emergency drills involving local law enforcement. And then they will train more on a personal level at the school. There's no way I can sit here and pick all the locations we may send kids to if we were able to flee the building. But we need to identify those, identify places that students may be going. We wouldn't want to broadcast those, but places that we may want students to give them suggestions where to go to, staff. So all that will be created at the local building level. We will oversee that. Our Alice trained instructors will oversee that, look at their plans. And so the training will be ongoing. This is just a start with the staff. We need to educate the community. We need to educate our parents. We need to educate students before we ever get to the point that we're actually training students. But we need to get there quickly. And so this is not this is just a starting point. It's definitely not the stopping point along the way.
And I would add to that, as Mr. Dyer spoke about getting parents and community involved, we're looking currently at dates for later this fall after we get school up and running, where we can invite our community, invite parents into the building so that we can teach them about what's going on and the kind of things that we're trying to train to do. Again, hopefully that's a lot of wasted time. But we've got to have people that have thought through scenarios so that if something does happen, it's in the back of their memory, they can pull it up and act, and hopefully keep everyone as safe as possible. So,
I wanted to say thank you for that. I appreciate all the work that you and your administrative team has done to bring us to the evolution of where we are at in society and making sure that what we're doing for our kids are the safest and placing them in the best environment and making sure that they're in good hands and safe in our building. So thank you for that.
and I think it's important for us, obviously, that we stay current with laws and what the state has put out there as far as safety concerns. As I said before, Mr. Dyer said as well, the Attorney General has endorsed this as part of the overall safety plan for school districts. And it makes, when you sit down and think about it, it does make sense. Prior to coming to West Claremont, I had a 350,000 square foot building. And if there was something going on at one end, there was really no reason for the kids on the opposite end of the building to do anything other than get out. And so we have to get people to think about that prior to the situation presenting itself again. Hopefully it never does. But we got to plant those seeds in folks' minds so they know how to react and know what their options are should a tragic situation occur.
Ed, I applaud your efforts and that of the safety committee. It's about giving our staff options, and this is one piece of the pie, and there are lots of things that can be done before any discussion or any consideration is given to arming staff members. I'm absolutely not a proponent of that, but it doesn't change the fact that there are many, many things that we can do to make it safer for students and staff in this district. And again, I applaud the effort that you're putting into it. That's what we have to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ed, I just wanted to thank you for your time and thank the committee for the time and dedication that they have to this program. And I really, really, really hope that it works out well and that we never have to use this in our school district.
We join you in that. We hope all of this is for, we never see it used. But one thing we do know, we have to be prepared. And so we're doing our best to be prepared. We do have a great team. I've got to thank them. They have given countless hours of their own. They're a great team. They're going to give more hours. They are a great team to work with, a cross-section of our whole district. And law enforcement's been super in this district. And while we've got Union Township and the sheriff here tonight, they've been great. We've also had great cooperation out of Pierce Township and Amelia Village. Our local fire officials has just been great. We have some of the best support we could have. We just need to buy some time until we can get them there to help us. Should we have one of those situations, and that's really what it's about. It's all about buying time, saving lives, and surviving and reducing casualties. And hopefully it never comes here, but we'd be a little bit blindsided if we thought it wouldn't come here. So we've got to prepare for that. I don't know if the team have anything more to say before we leave. I don't want to shut them down. No. They did a good job. I want to thank them. Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you too, Ed, but survivors survive. There's been studies to show that these people that survived major accidents and major catastrophes thought about what happened before they got into it. And this is what we need to do, is get our teachers and students thinking ahead of time, how am I going to react, instead of sitting there and panicking when it does happen. And I applaud, this is something we have to do. Hopefully it never happens, but this is something we have to prepare for. And that's the best way to help them survive, is prepare for it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.
Appreciate the support of the school board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Dr. Klein, Curriculum Memorandum of Agreement.
Yes, we've been working with the curriculum department and the WCEA leadership. It's very important in any school district that teachers who are content experts are involved with the development of instruction, the development of instructional strategies, development of instructional tools, etc. This past year, we've spent a lot of time working with them, primarily around things like student learning objectives, and some of the things that have to do with the new evaluation system. We've got to get back to being able to work and focus on the instructional side of the house. In the past, this district's practice has been to pull those teachers out of classrooms during the day and provide a substitute teacher for the students involved. And I will say, quite honestly, that there is no, we can put a substitute in there, but there isn't a replacement for that classroom teacher. And instruction cannot carry on the way it's intended to if the teacher's not in the classroom. So I've been very pleased in working with WCEA to sit down and talk about options. How can we do this differently so that we can either keep the money at an even level or maybe reduce the costs that we're spending on those things, and more importantly, keep our teachers in our classrooms with our students. And that to me is the primary driving force. So this MOU, Memorandum of Understanding or Agreement, establishes an hourly rate for curriculum work that we would pay teachers for work after their regular contracted day. That would allow us to continue to work on the things that we need to work on from a curriculum perspective and keep our teachers in the classrooms where we get the most bang for our buck teaching our kids. So there is a lot of work. There will continue to be a lot of work. Our curriculum specialists do a great job of organizing that work and bringing expertise to the equation. But we also need content experts. Those people need to be involved in the designing of instruction in their classrooms. So this MOU, as I said, does establish an hourly rate for that. We can't expect that we're going to do all of that work after school. There may be some times where we need to do it during the daytime. But I'd really like to try to move that work to after school, pay our folks to do it, keeps it a financial wash, and most importantly, it keeps teachers in the classroom with students. So I respectfully request that the board approve the curriculum memorandum of agreement as presented.
You've heard the recommendation from Dr. Klein. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion?
Do you foresee a lot of curriculum change being done in this process this year? Or is this strictly to help catch up on the evaluation?
Well, and I think that's a great question. I think it really is going to depend on a couple things. There is a lot of work that we need to get done, and we're constantly working on improving instructional strategies and scope and sequence and the things that are a part of the curricular world. In addition to that, we have a real need to write some courses. We need more elective options for our kids. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to add staff, but we need more options. We've got students, particularly at the high school level, that are repeating the same course multiple times because they don't have anything else to take that's different. In addition to that, and there's been conversation in Columbus of late about Common Core and a repeal of that after November. I'll be quite honest, we're going to need more of this if that takes place, simply because if not, what we've been putting into place, then what? And there's going to have to be a lot of rewriting done. So we want to be prudent about that time. I think it's important that, it's critical that teachers are involved in that. They take what we get from the state and then they create how it comes to life in the classroom. And so that work is critically important. To put a gauge on it, it's hard for me to do that right now because we don't know what's coming mid-year. But we do have a lot of courses that we need to get written. We still have common assessments we need to work on so that students in econ, as an example, regardless of where they're going or regardless of whose class they're in, are taking the same assessment. So there'll be a lot of work that needs to be done in that area. We'll have to wait and see how the rest of the year plays out, whether that'll mean even more, depending on what is decided in Columbus.
That's the whole point, is there'll be meetings next week or two in Columbus. They have a new bill 597, House Bill 597, that improves upon the best one that's been passed, which was the Oklahoma bill. And in my understanding, they want to instead of going from scratch to reestablish the standards in the state, that they want to start with what Massachusetts has done, which until they got onto Common Core were competitive worldwide. And I would hate to see us waste time on major reductions to go along with Common Core until we know whether we're going to be able to kill that monster or not.
Well, and whether we like it or not, it is what we have. And we would be irresponsible not to prepare our kids for the assessments that are coming. My understanding in talking with folks in Columbus, they're not going to, nothing's going to happen with any decisions around Common Core until after the November elections, which don't surprise me. And so that being said, we've got to continue to make sure that our kids are being prepared and we're doing what we need to do to get them a quality education. I'll go back and reiterate again, our job at the local level is to take what the state has given us, and in this case standards, not just Common Core standards, but also Ohio standards around other subject areas other than language arts and math, and we put the meat on the bones. They give us a skeleton, and it's our job locally to put the meat on the bones. And so that means what we're teaching, how we're teaching it, the materials we use to teach it, the instructional strategies, all that happens locally. And so I know there are all kinds of arguments about Common Core out there, but bottom line is, in this district and in districts across the state, the meat that goes on the bones is created by our own staff. And they are the experts. They know their child, the age group, they know their content, they know all the things they need to do to bring that to life. And regardless of where that decision lands, we're still charged with that. Even if the state says we're going to this or we're going to that, we're still charged locally with bringing it to life. And that's what our teachers are trained to do and what they do a great job of in the classroom on a daily basis. So there is never a need not to spend time working on curriculum. As a matter of fact, if we aren't spending time working on curriculum, we're falling further behind. And so, you know, I know that's not a definitive answer on how much time we're going to need, because I don't know where that's going here in the near future. That being said, there are plenty of things that we need to work on to improve the instruction throughout our district. And that's really what this is meant to do outside of the regular school day, so that we keep our teachers in front of our kids.
Yeah, and I think it's particularly important that we do that as a collaborative effort with the teachers who are in the classroom every day. And I compliment you and our teachers for working together to be able to allow them to stay in the classroom, but have an alternative to be able to do these things. Yeah. It's a great option.
Yeah, thank you. And we will use a combination probably, at least to get it started, but I'd like to see a year from now where we stand, and if we were able to at least maintain, if not reduce cost, and certainly increase the time, the contact time in classrooms. So, and I appreciate the efforts of the association and working with us to accomplish that. Quite honestly, most districts use a combination of approaches. Sometimes you just got to do it during the day, but you hope not to. You hope you can do it outside of the school day.
Good. Any other suggestions, questions? Do you need this approved tonight then?
Yes.
Okay. Make a motion to approve.
We have a
we
motion
already
and
have
a
a
second.
motion.
We have a
Just a
motion
vote.
and a second.
We
Yeah.
need a vote at this point.
Yeah.
Just a vote.
Mr. Waldman,
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn.
Yes. Motion carried. Personnel, Dr. Klein.
We have a couple of personnel items this evening. You'll see our list of resignations and retirements are diminishing. I will say that at this point, most of them are classified employees and not certified employees. Under employment recommendations, we have certified staff personnel who are replacing folks who have left us for one reason or another. None of those positions are new. We also have some supplemental contracts to get those set before the start of the school year. Some classified parapros that we need to employ as well. Some additional replacement at Holly Hill with Susan Hanais, who will take that vacancy there. We do have some school volunteers and, of course, some substitutes on the classified side of the organization. With that being presented, I'd like to respectfully request that the board approve the personnel agenda as presented.
You've heard the recommendation from Dr. Klein. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second? I'll second. Roll call, Mrs. Cropper?
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn,
Yes.
Mr. Waldman,
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman.
Yes.
Motion carried. Superintendent's comments, Dr. Klein?
Yeah, I just have a few updates very quickly. This week feels like we're back in the throes of it. We have new staff members joining us on Wednesday, all day Wednesday and half of the day Thursday, to go through a variety of informational sessions about the district operations, and expectations that we have for our staff. This week we also have Ready Fest, which is a community-based effort. That'll be held at Glen Estee High School East Cafeteria, and those are for some of our families who are struggling to afford the materials, supplies, backpacks, those kinds of things that are necessary for the start of the new school year. Meet the Teams night at Amelia is Wednesday as well. That's at 6 p.m. And the Glen Estee Meet the Teams night is Friday at 7:00 p.m. So it'll be a great opportunity to come out and see the kids on the teams. I did have a conversation with both athletic directors. I don't have any hard numbers at this point, but as I understand it, enrollment numbers of kids going out for teams has increased dramatically as a result of the reduction of the pay to participate fee. So I'm very excited about that, and once we get those numbers gelled, I'll certainly bring them and share them with the board. The last thing I want to share, there was a conversation last week, maybe it was in our agenda setting meeting now that I think about it. Ms. Sanborn asked about the K+ and the extended day programs, which are new to our district for this school year. We do have those that are ready to up and run. The inspections by the state have cleared, and we're in good shape with that. We have about 97 of our kindergartners that their parents have opted for the K-plus option for the full-day kindergarten. That represents about 16% of our expected kindergarten class. So I think in a first year, that's a great start, and we'll have more kids. Hopefully, we'll continue to add kids to that full-day experience. We also have on the extended day end, which is latchkey before, old school, I used to call it latchkey, extended day now. In the morning, we have about 150 youngsters that are receiving services through Child Focus in one of our in our buildings, and in the afternoon, about 186 students who are receiving services. All of that, again, is tuition-based. The parents pay that directly to Child Focus. We're providing the facility for that to take place. So I think in the long run, those numbers are positive, very positive, and certainly a help to our families. I did talk to Child Focus at the end of last week, and they said now that schools, people are starting getting fired back up, and you see the commercials on about school supplies and all that, they're starting to get a lot more inquiries. So I only expect those numbers to rise as we inch our way closer to opening day. We do have teachers back on the week from today, on the 18th. The 19th, Mr. Dyer explained what we were doing that day. We'll be doing training in the mornings. The teachers will be back in their buildings in the afternoons. And then Wednesday they come. Ready or not, they come. I was at another event at another school district over the weekend, and the MC asked how many kids were ready to go back, and there was very, very quiet rumbling. And then he asked how many parents were ready for the kids to go back, and there were outrageous cheers going on. And I remember those days when my children were young. So we're excited about the new school year. We've got a lot of great programming that is coming into place. We're making good progress. We're getting our financial house in order. There are a lot of good things going on in West Claremont that we should all be very proud of. So we welcome our kids back. We're looking forward to seeing them a week from Wednesday. Let's get this started. At this point, we've talked about it long enough. Get them in here, let's go. We'll figure out whatever else we have to do once they're with us. So that's the end of the superintendent's comments for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Klein. Public comment?
I have no cards.
Okay. Board business, board comments.
I wanted to talk about the comment that was made by Mr. Lewis at our last board meeting where he reported that there was a report called the CUP report out on the Ohio Department of Education's website, indicating that the West Claremont students are 40% unprepared going to college, that 40% of our students required remedial math and English to enter college. And one of our very respected teachers in the district who was in attendance of that meeting and is here tonight, did some great research on the CUP report and gave us an email overviewing the entire report. And in summary, the article that was located on the CUP report stated that 40% of Ohio's students enrolled in public education was not prepared for college. It did not indicate that West Claremont's students were not prepared. So I'd like to just kind of clarify that 40% that I believe that we are delivering a good education to our students. And those that want to be prepared will be prepared. And those that aren't as motivated may not be prepared. So wanted to clarify that number. Thank you.
Any other board comments?
Dr. Klein, do we currently have any indication of where our numbers are?
We're starting to get that. I was trying to pull that together for the board this evening. As you know, being in the school business, this is a time of a lot of change, number-wise. As a matter of fact, I know that our enrollment center enrolled 27 new students today, 7 of whom are kindergartners. And so they are staying incredibly busy down there right now, trying to get everybody enrolled so they're ready to start the first day. The numbers as I look, and I can go back and reflect on where we are today versus where we were a year ago. I think it's probably safe to say at this point that we've slowed the departure down to a trickle.
Good.
I will have, and as we talked about add backs and trying to do some other things to encourage people to stay in West Claremont, we were hopeful that in the first year we could stop the hemorrhaging. And I'm hopeful that when the numbers all settle, which, as you know, will be a couple weeks into school, we will have numbers that are much more stable. And I would take that at this point as a win. We'll continue to work with families and encourage them to stay in West Claremont and come to West Claremont as a district of choice. And everything that we're doing right now is focused on just that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other board comments? Adjournment?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Cropper?
Mr. Lewis,
Yes?
Mrs. Brinkman,
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn,
Yes.
Mr. Waldman.
Yes.
Thank you for coming this evening. Our next meeting is Monday, August the 18th at 7 p.m. in the Civic Center. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.